is Thomas Decker, and this is my Module 1 demographic conversation and about culture and how it impacts my teaching. So the first thing that we end up getting to look at is Quinter Junior Senior High School USD 293. And I'm looking at the race ethnic demographics instead of beginning with the gender, even though that's the first one that pops up. Our gender's almost exactly 50-50. And it doesn't really seem to affect much at the school. But this does. And this really changes how I look at the school, because we are fairly isolated. We don't have a lot of traffic, so to speak. The people that come to Quinter tend to stay in Quinter. We have a very predominantly white, obviously at 89.11. We have a few Hispanic families, and we have one African American family, and that's it. We really do not have a lot of variety of skin tones. However, despite that fact, while it's rural, very conservative in its background, you would think Hispanic families and African American families may not be as welcome because of stereotypes. The opposite seems to be true. If you fit one of the social molds, your skin tone doesn't matter. The school is so small that they don't have the ability, it seems like, to judge you based on your skin tone as long as they just like hanging out with you. If they like hanging out with you, you're sold. You can go around wherever. At least from my perspective. And I have to admit, that's one of the things that I'm most proud of my students about. And because of that, I have a very healthy relationship with the students and trying to teach them things that are non-conventional, so to speak, and trying to throw in a little international flair. Like I am teaching Mulan this year to my seniors as part of my epics unit. So instead of doing a traditional British literature, I'm doing epics. I'm still doing Beowulf with the Norse Germanic elements, and I'm still doing The Hobbit because I love The Hobbit and we have it. But I'm teaching Mulan with, and it's only a few pages long, but I'm showing them different varieties of it, the plays, the musicals, and how culturally important it is because it violates the stereotypes in so many ways, including in China. The other element that makes this very intriguing to me is the emotional aspect of it. Something I didn't really think about until this unit was the fact that there's a homogeny. Not just in skin tone, though. It's a homogeny of how you demonstrate willingness to participate, anxiety, sadness, creativity. All of those elements are much more regulated because extending yourself too far outside of the average becomes glaringly obvious to the rest of the students, and you kind of get called on it. Socially, one of my students last year, I would have looking at specifically at universalist versus social constructivist constructs. I would have been very social constructivist only. Emotions are determined by the structure and social aspects around you. With one student in particular in mind, I've had to reevaluate my stance. I have to add in universalist to me as well, because now that there is now that certain elements have been interpreted correctly for them, their ability to communicate their emotions correctly has massively improved. And I'm not joking. It's night and day. Last year, he was a difficult student in a number of ways. This year, already, just a week in, he's already almost a full week ahead on an essay. Turned it in today on a Tuesday, due on a Friday. But I only gave it to him today, and it was researched with some basic information. But he's not from this country. Grew up in Mexico, and so I'm really, the idea of culture and emotions through culture is really quite fascinating to me, especially right now. So I would also add in that I probably rely more on this right here called progressive cultivation. I want to cultivate a group of people that can extend themselves beyond their bubble without losing their personal identities. You don't have to lose the fact that you're a farmer just because you like to read Japanese literature. You don't. Farming is an act, it's a job. And as an identity, it doesn't take anything away from you to acknowledge and accept another. So that's very much flavored my teaching. I don't agree with these results. The economically disadvantaged at 30%, almost 31, if you round up, it is 31, doesn't seem nearly high enough to me. I have altered my perspective to be practical based as much as physically possible. I have a lot of I'm an English teacher, I can't speak. I have a lot of farm kids that just want to take over the farm. That's it. Their lives are there. Their hopes, their dreams are there. And they may have other dreams, owning a certain kind of car, working on this amount of land, things like that. Their dreams are so tangible that they don't need a lot of the literature sources and things like that, but a lot of them also worry about, they come to school with shoes that are falling apart because they have one pair that are good and they need to save them for something else. So they'll come in and it's like, okay, you're almost dressed, ready for school. But that's the best they can. I have at least one student that I know has signed up for sports because he can't get a shower at home. And so I don't know how the metrics work, but I would want to question this building demographic. Their performance levels put us a little bit behind the state average. And if you isolate just the high school, we have a lot more in level 3 for mathematics. We have less than the state in level 1. So we have a very strong presence, but we have not, at least unmeasurable from the look of it. Yeah, if you get real close right there, it's 0.0%. There we go. So that 0% doesn't speak great of us, but it doesn't speak the worst either. I would rather have someone who is able to survive almost any situation than one that can survive that one specific one. The ELA is where I came in. Now, this is from the year before I started, so I feel a little bit disassociated from it. The next year's information I would be very interested in. These low numbers, just making sure that they have the basics to such a fine point that the rest of the world just goes, is my goal for them. So we got a bit of a jump when it came to sciences. We had a huge third level group. But interestingly enough, we didn't lose much in the fourth, if you'll notice. Our fourth and our third and our second are much, and all of them are better than the state average. And we have a great couple of science teachers. And we have an excellent history government teacher that I actually am working hard with right now to try. Oh, it's not coming up. Refresh. That I'm currently trying to do more with as far as showing, attaching my curriculum to hers so that I can cross cross curriculum. Whoa, my brain stopped. Cross curriculum with her so that I can try to draw some special projects or essays, things like that. I don't really have information on educational placement, learning accommodations, and testing accommodations. I can say that our IEPs have grown from last year to this year, but I can also say that we have more paras. We have some fresh ideas and some really active people currently in our special education department that make me very, very happy to be engaged in showing and helping in whatever way I can. So that our numbers are slightly higher disability-wise. And those are primarily IEPs due to social issues. Timer so that I don't talk too long. Due to, there are a few social, there are a few physical, but we have a lot of ADHD. We have a few depressive issues. We have a few that just do not learn for one reason or another. And so this is the hardest thing that I have ever had. The culture that is developed around the kids that need academic help because of some sort of mental issue is not the healthiest in any regard. When I came in, I had very set, jaded students that said, I can't do this. And that's all they had. I got a little bit more out of them, but it's hard to juice a rock. And they shut down really hard the more I tried to push them. So I tried to figure a way to challenge them, to pull them. And that worked a lot better than push, to pull them along. But especially for a first-year teacher, even for a second-year teacher, I am not well prepared to differentiate for so many various stages of learning inside of the same classroom while I'm also prepping for 3 other grades while I'm also doing classes. I enjoy the challenge. I just wish I was better at it. But it definitely has altered how I approach what I'm doing. And so I hope that that all the questions I worked on are answered. I hope that you don't have very many other questions for me. Yeah, I love my kids. I love my kids. I love so much about them, and I want to work so hard to get them to the next level, and I'm getting there. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. And taking into account their social well-being, their mental well-being, while not a traditional metric, has to be part of what I focus on. And it seems to have put me in just a year as one of the more favored teachers. I can get more out of most students than the others in the school right now, depending on their teaching style and the student. Now, there are other students that work better for them, and I think that that just goes to style. But I am always looking at what do I need to improve. And so culturally, socially, I think I need to keep them stable. As far as me personally, it just tells me, okay, there's a really defined edge where these kids have not extended themselves. And I get to play with that. And so that makes me really excited because that's adventure. That's the new frontier. So thank you very much for listening to me blabber on. I hope you have an excellent evening, and we'll talk to you later.